Some Casual Takes, episode 54, hosted by your boy, Stephen Pepper, here to casually talk sports. This episode is brought to you by no one, and we have a solo dolo pod today. Yes, I love these. These are my favorite pods. For anyone who doesn't like the sound of my voice and thinks my takes are insufferable, no one else is going to be featured on today's show, so your ears aren't going to be saved. So this might not be the episode for you, but I love these episodes, just me talking, shorter streams, and we're going to have a blast. I hope everyone had a good weekend. It is Monday, August 7th, 2023. I had a good weekend. I'm chilling with my boys the entire week. Got a couple exciting stuff coming down. Summer's winding down. Like I said, it's August 7th. I'm counting down to school. I did a little back to school things today too, which kind of sucks that I am getting in the back to school mood. You guys notice got some earrings, man. I got some earrings. Just did that over the weekend. If any of you guys have earrings, what do you think about these? These are a little small, but my first ever earrings ever. I kind of wanted to go small here and kind of see what it looked like on my face, kind of like how they feel on my ears, and then I might go bigger. But your boy got earrings. That was the highlight of my weekend. Let me know the highlight of your weekend. We have some good topics to talk about today. We're going to talk about Jake Paul fight. That was over the weekend. I'm giving out my hot NFL take later in the show. Team USA hoops. They were practicing. I think they have a scrimmage or something tonight against Puerto Rico. And then obviously the Angels lost. We're going to talk some baseball to end the show. So, but before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about what I saw also over the weekend. Baseball fight. I'm not a violent person, so don't take this out of context. I am not a violent person, but Tim Anderson fought Jose Ramirez, two MLB players. They fought on Saturday. And like I said, I'm not a violent person, but man, when you see that rare fight, because this is more rare now, like fighting in sports is more rare. You like 70s, 80s, 90s, every sport they're throwing hands. They still throw a little hands in hockey, but every sport they were throwing hands. Dudes were charging mounds. Basketball players are getting their jaw broken. Doesn't really happen much today. So when you see an occasional fight, especially when it's between stars, like remember Bryce Harper charged the mound through his helmet. It is a sight to see. It is huge news in sports. And it wasn't just an ordinary like, oh, hold me back. Nah, they were throwing actual fists. And it was wild. So wild that Jose Ramirez actually knocked out Tim Anderson for a second. Like actually clocked him on the jaw, and he fell down, and he was disoriented when he got up. And Tim Anderson he's so salty on Twitter. He's extremely salty on Twitter. Someone said he was in his Antonio Brown stage with his subliminal tweets and all that. And it's so funny too, because I think he tweeted like a couple years ago that like no one could fight him or no one could beat him up, and then he just gets beat up by Jose Ramirez. Apparently that beef between the two American League Central players has been building up for a while. J-Ram said post-fight that Tim Anderson's been a little disrespectful to the game, and he also said he tagged him hard, and it just basically Tim Anderson had it coming per Jose Ramirez. I can't wait for the next time they match up because, they both missed time the next game. So the next series they ever have against each other, are we going to see a part two? I think Tim Anderson wants his get back, because I would want my get back if I get slumped and every outlet, some outlets that never even post baseball are posting me getting slumped. I would want my get back on Jose Ramirez. But it was funny just to see fights because, like I said, you normally never see fights in sports. So let's get right into it. Speaking of fight, Jake Paul fought Nate Diaz over the weekend. Jake Paul, we know, professional boxer, former YouTuber. Now he's doing that boxing thing. He's been doing it for quite a while now. I think it's 5 years since his first amateur fight as an undercard in the KSI Logan Paul fight. He fought Deji. He's been doing it for a little bit. So he fought Nate Diaz over the weekend. This was his 9th professional fight ever, and Jake Paul won. And I watched it a little bit. I was out with some friends, but I did ended up, watching it on my phone. I mean, it was an okay fight. I really appreciated how Nate Diaz hung in at the end. He didn't get knocked out. He did get knocked down, but he didn't get knocked out, and he kind of improved by the round, and, Jake Paul won. Whatever you believe it was rigged or not, Jake Paul won. But I'm watching this fight, man. I'm listening to him talk. I'm seeing Jake Paul tweet. I'm seeing all this, and this is just years and years of me just seeing who he's fighting, and I'm just waiting on the day he actually fights a professional boxer. He talks like he's a professional boxer. He talks like this. He talks like that. He acts like a professional boxer, but he's yet to actually play a legit fighter. So it's like, I refuse to call Jake Paul a professional boxer. Jake Paul, the problem child. I refuse to call him a professional boxer until he fights an actual boxer. This is facts. I'm not denying that Jake Paul puts in a lot of time into training and has some boxing skill. He does. But until he faces a real boxer, he's still an amateur to me. He's still an amateur to me. If you look at Jake Paul's professional record, 8-1 looks pretty elite, straight up. But let's add some context to that. But when you add context, all you see is YouTubers and senior citizens on his resume. Like, all you see on his resume are YouTubers and senior citizens. Like, it's so fun. Like, dude, looking at this resume, I don't know how boxing counted half of these as professional fights. Like, fighting YouTuber and Son Gibb isn't comp. And same with fighting 5'9", almost 40-year-old former basketball player Nate Robinson. Now, he does box other fighters, but they're not boxers. They're all washed up 40-year-old MMA fighters who you could tell, especially with Nate Diaz, they take boxing way less seriously than Jake Paul. And most of these guys, I believe, are just in it for the bag. They're not in it to actually beat Jake Paul. And most of these guys, I can tell, are in it for the bag. They don't care about the professional record as a boxer. Like Anderson Silva, who Jake Paul fought last year, is almost 50. But maybe Jake knows, like, skill set wise, he's just not quite there at the professional level and can capitalize with who he's playing, because his best comp yet, Tommy Fury, a guy who, compared to the other players, the other people he's boxed, has put the most time into boxing, gave Jake Paul his only loss. Jake is over here tweeting that he aims to be a world champion boxer soon. Dude, no world champ should have Deji on the resume. Jake Paul tweeting the other day, I'm aiming to be a world champ by, like, I think he said like 2025, 2026 or something like that in the next like couple of years. Dude, you're not a world champ if you have Deji on your resume. You have YouTubers on your resume. You have 5'9" Nate Robinson on his resume. But like I said, I'm not denying that Jake Paul doesn't have any skill. I actually think Jake Paul is getting better by the year, and I think he does have some boxing skill. Hey, Jake Paul beat me up. I've never put any time in the boxing gym. I think I've hit a couple bags in my life. Jake Paul would beat me up. He's put in the work since 2018, like 2017, when he started like actually training. Jake Paul is training a ton of hours every single week, every single day, every single year to get some boxing skills. And he has all the money in the world to have some of the best trainers ever. Like, if he wants to get like elite boxing trainers, he can do it, and he does. He's got some of the best trainers in the world. He has the money. So I'm not denying he doesn't have any skill, and I'm not denying that Jake Paul isn't putting in the work and putting in the practice. I'm not saying he's a bum. What I am saying is I just refuse to call Jake Paul a professional boxer until he actually steps in the ring consistently with other professional boxers. Because the fights that Jake Paul we're now 5 years into this Jake Paul problem child boxing era. And Jake Paul is yet to fight really anyone who at the professional level. I think Tommy Fury is the only boxer who counts as a professional boxer. I think he has some professional boxing experience. Tommy Fury does. And that was the only guy who gave Jake Paul his loss. It's funny how the only person who has professional boxing experience, the most compared to Jake Paul, gave Jake Paul his only loss. Like, look at his resume. Deji actually is not a professional fight. Deji doesn't count as a professional fight. It was an amateur fight. So Deji doesn't count. But his next fight was a professional fight. Son Gibb, YouTuber. FIFA YouTuber, I don't really watch him. He does boxing now, but this dude is only boxing like Austin McBroom and like other YouTubers. Like, he doesn't count as a boxer. He just only boxes YouTuber. He's a YouTuber. Like, doesn't count. That's him. He also fought he fought Nate Robinson next. Woodley, I guess, but like, and then he fought like other guys, Ben Askren. He fought Anderson Silva. Then he fought Nate Diaz. I mean, these guys are fighters. I'm not saying like Tyron Lilly would beat me up. Like, these guys are fighters. They know how to box a little bit just straight up because they're fighters, but they're UFC guys, they're MMA guys, guys who use their legs, guys who tackle, guys who don't train boxing, because boxing is completely different from UFC. Boxing is completely different from MMA, mixed martial arts, and all that, because there's completely different components of your body and strategy and rules that you use in these sports. And also, these dudes are 40. Like, these dudes are 40. They have been out of their sport for years. These guys have been out of their sport for years. Like I said, Silva is like 48 years old right now. He was like 47 when he fought Jake Paul. I don't even think Jake Paul's 30 yet. And he fought a near 50-year-old, a dude who can probably be a grandpa today. And Jake Paul fought him. And that counted as a professional fight. And like I said, these dudes don't even care about the professional records. I think all these dudes, especially Diaz, I can tell Diaz probably barely trained boxing. Dude was just in it for the troll. Dude was in it for the bag, which I get. Dude, Jake Paul pulls in pay-per-view. He pulls in money. He pulls in attraction. He's probably one of the highest earning boxers in the last couple of years, just because of his name and the draw that he brings in and the hype to his fights. You fight Jake Paul, you're getting a bag. So I don't think a lot of these boxers are really in it to fight Jake Paul. They're more in it for the bag. So until Jake Paul fights a professional boxer, someone with actual boxing experience, dudes who are like a couple years in their boxing career, got like a handful of fights against other boxers, by the way, handful of fights against other real boxers, then I'll consider Jake Paul an actual professional boxer. He has what it takes to be a professional boxer. Like I said, I don't think he's a bum. He has a skill set. I think he has what it takes to be a professional boxer. But until he steps in the ring, takes some licks from dudes who put time into the sport as much as he does, I'm not counting him as a professional boxer. All right, let's go to football. So I've seen this on Twitter. You know, the quarterback show, right? They're trying to do a season 2. I actually enjoyed the quarterback show. If you don't know what the quarterback show is, we talked about it on the pod when I did a little semi-review of it. The quarterback show basically follows a couple quarterbacks throughout the season, details what it takes to be a quarterback, and kind of like it follows NFL quarterbacks throughout their season, like what it takes to be a quarterback, how their season's going, you know, the mental preparation, the mental wear and tear, the physical wear and tear, everything it takes to be an NFL quarterback, specifically for them that season. They followed Marcus Mariota, Patrick Mahomes, and Kirk Cousins last year, and they want to do it again because it was super successful, executively produced by Peyton Manning, arguably the greatest quarterback ever to some people. They want to do a second season, so they got to find a few quarterbacks to do it this season. However, they're running into some issues because there's these quarterbacks now who are declining. I think about a dozen quarterbacks already are saying, no, we don't want to do season 2. And one of them was Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was interviewed the other day. Someone asked him, were you approached to be in season 2 of the quarterback show, of Netflix's quarterback? This is what Trevor Lawrence had to say, quote, I was approached. I decided not to do it this year. I feel like it's not the right time for me. Maybe in the future. I watched the show, though. I thought it was great. I think they did a great job, end quote. So Trevor Lawrence is basically like, I like the show. I think it's a cool idea. I think they did a great job, but it's just not the right time for me. You know what I got from that quote the most? That Trevor Lawrence doesn't want distractions because he knows that he's about to go into an MVP level ascension. He doesn't want cameras around. Trevor Lawrence knows that I'm not at a point in my career. I'm not at the level of Mahomes. I haven't won a Super Bowl yet. I'm still developing as a player. I don't want these distractions around. He's locked in. So locked in that I think he's going to be an MVP level player this year. I'm so confident in Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, in which is going to lead me to my hottest take of the upcoming football season. Ready for this? My hot take of the upcoming football season is that the Jacksonville Jaguars will finish as the number 1 seed in the AFC. Let me make a case. I saw a promising year 2 leap from Trevor Lawrence last year. And with another year under his belt with Super Bowl winning head coach Doug Peterson, and now he's going to be throwing to a new receiving threat, a wide receiver number 1, Calvin Ridley. I predict an MVP level leap for the kid this year. Don't believe me? Look at the Jags' schedule this season. Plenty of opportunity to stack Mickey wins and easy numbers for Trevor Lawrence. The Jags have the 10th easiest schedule in the league. But they have like the 3rd easiest schedule when I take out the teams that aren't going to be relevant this year. Their schedule is so easy because the reason why their schedule is so easy is because they have 10 games against the 2 worst conferences in football, the AFC South and the AFC North. You can pencil in at least 8 wins right there. That's he's playing games against Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, rookie CJ Stroud, rookie Anthony Richardson, rookie, I'm blanking on his name, Bryce Young, inexperienced Desmond Ridder, old and regressed Ryan Tannehill. Pencil in 8 wins right there. Now, these next couple of teams here on his schedule are tough opponents, but the Jags get the Chiefs, 49ers, Bengals, Ravens in Florida. So some of his toughest opponents this year, he's got them at home, and he's got the Bills at a neutral site, which makes it a bit easier for him to win these games. And considering that every other team that I think has a shot at the top of the seed, and like considering that every other team that I think has a shot at the top seed in the AFC has a strength of schedule above 500, the Jags have a clear path to be the AFC's 1 seed. A clear path. So Trevor Lawrence declines the quarterback show. He's locked into this season. He's absolutely locked in. I see an MVP level season coming from Trevor Lawrence. He broke out last year. This is his year where he becomes an MVP. Put up great numbers last year. Now he's got his 2nd year with a coach who had a lot to do with their offense turning around. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. He has great weapons already. He has good weapons already, which they signed last offseason, which helped them ascend. Now he gets Calvin Ridley, who people forget was a top 15 wide receiver before he got suspended. That was where Calvin Ridley was at. Now he's in the lineup. He's looking amazing in camp. He's got a great receiving core. Trevor Lawrence, another year under his belt, is going to take an MVP level leap this year. And then considering their schedule is very easy. Like I said, 10 games against the AFC South and NFC South combined. Now, I don't think they're going to go undefeated. I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated, but let's say at least that's 8 wins to pencil in. Because when you think of those quarterbacks, that's a handful of rookies. A game against Bryce Young, 2 games against CJ Stroud, 2 games against Anthony Richardson. That's 5 games against rookies. Another game against an inexperienced Desmond Ridder. Another 2 games against aging, regressing Ryan Tannehill. And then another game against Derek Carr. Not even a top 15 quarterback. That's 10 games right there against quarterbacks who are either rookies or not top 15 quarterbacks. Not even, some of them barely even top 20. And their hardest games of the season, Kansas City, 49ers, Bengals, Ravens, are all in Jacksonville. And Buffalo, which is also a hard game on their schedule, they got that in a neutral site. So they're getting very favorable matchups on their toughest schedule, on toughest opponents as well. And they're the only team that I really think realistically is a shot at the number 1 seed that has an opponent strength of schedule below 500. I think Chiefs are above 500. I think the Bengals are above 500. The Bills' record is above 500. Everyone else is above 500 in terms of strength of schedule. Only the Jags. The Jags have the 10th easiest schedule in the league. And you remove out all the terrible teams, like you remove like the Colts, remove the Falcons and all the bottom teams in the AFC, remove all the irrelevant teams off the strength of schedule rankings. The Jags are like the 2nd or 3rd easiest schedule in the league. I think only behind like the Cleveland Browns. Only behind the Cleveland Browns. I think they can very capable of winning 12 to 14 games right there, especially when you're penciling in about 11 games for the Jags. It's really all up to Trevor Lawrence. If Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley can be like a top 5 quarterback wide receiver combination this year, and if Trevor Lawrence can take that MVP stride, throw for 4,500 yards, throw for 30 touchdowns, doesn't turn the ball over a lot. The defense can like hold up, not be elite, but can hold up enough for Trevor Lawrence can feel comfortable and not have to score 35 points a game. They're playing 8 rookies a year. They're playing inexperienced. They're playing old. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is the best quarterback in like 13 out of their 17 games. And against Lamar, against Josh Allen, against Patrick Mahomes, the only other quarterbacks that I think are better than Trevor Lawrence either has them at home or in a neutral site. Trevor Lawrence declining the quarterback show. He's locked in. MVP level season coming. I'm confident saying that the Jags will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I'm thinking about the AFC. I have the Jags at 1. I think I have the Chiefs at 2. I have the Bengals at 3. And then I have the – wait, let me pull up my rankings. Because we did division predictions, but I didn't do playoffs. Let me do – where is it? I have the Jags at 1, Chiefs 2, Bengals 3, Bills 4, Browns 5, Jets 6, Chargers 7. The wild card, I'm not really confident on the order, to be honest. That's my rankings. For the NFC, then I got the 49ers 1, Cowboys 2, Lions 3, Saints 4, Eagles 5, Seahawks 6, and Vikings 7. Not that wild of a prediction. Some people think Cowboys over Eagles is wild, but I think that's a pretty good prediction. Let's talk some ball now. Let's talk hoops. Let's talk some real basketball. Team USA, FIBA, the FIBA tournament this year. It's later in August. They started their practices. They started their camps. And I think they have a little game against Puerto Rico tonight. So they did that over the weekend. And a lot of footage has been out of Team USA and their practice. And they don't look that good. They don't really look that good. They don't look that good. I'm watching this film, man. And a team with some good players, top 3 players like Austin Reeves in the practice. I'm seeing the select team. The select team's the team that is in charge of like kind of being like the practice team that the Team USA practices against. So like Cade Cunningham was on the select team. Cade Cunningham was giving them buckets. The select team was posterizing them. Jared Jackson was getting posterized. Cade Cunningham on the select team was dominating. Team USA did not look particularly well in practice in the videos I looked like. I'm like, uh-oh. This is the state of Team USA? Austin Reeves is our top 3 performing player in practice. I love Austin Reeves. But I don't think Austin Reeves even starts for the Lakers. Or he didn't start for like half the season. And Austin Reeves is a top 3 performing player on Team USA in practice. We're getting dunked on in practice by a select team. And the select team is not even all that hot, too. Half select team is a bunch of AI 2K generated players outside like Cade Cunningham and a couple people. Jalen Green. We're getting dunked on. Jalen Green's is shooting 100% from the field. This is who we're sending overseas. And so when I'm watching the tape, I'm watching the practice in the state of Team USA. I look over the roster again. It had me thinking about this. I was thinking about this yesterday. The state of Team USA hoops reminds me of the state of the Avengers. Now, let me explain. Let me explain this one. Give me a minute to explain this one. In 2008, our basketball program needed saving. So we formed the Redeem Team. LeBron, Kobe, D. Wade. The best and most iconic basketball stars is what we set to win gold. In 2008 as well, Iron Man movie was released and teased that the world needed a group to save it. So they formed the Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, the best and the most iconic Marvel superheroes to save the day. And so for the following Olympics and FIBA tournaments, we only send the best players we had, and so did the Avengers in their following movies. Until recently, the stars that we used to send for basketball got old or no longer want to participate. And same with the Avengers. The heroes that used to be in the Avengers movies got old, or in their fictional case, died. Now we're the state of Team USA. Now USA is left with their B team. Josh Hart, Bobby Portis, Cam Johnson. That's who we're sending? Have you seen the recent MCU update? The Avengers will now be led by Falcon, Shuri, Shang-Chi. We still have some solid players. The MCU still has some solid heroes. Anthony Edwards, Brandon Ingram, Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange. But how many of those Team USA hoopers that we sent over are top 20 locks in the league? Or how many of those heroes in the next Avengers movie are S or A tier characters? Team USA used to be guaranteed gold. The Avengers used to be guaranteed box office. I'm not so confident we're winning gold this year. And I'm not so confident and I'm not so intrigued to go watch the next Avengers movie. Think about that comparison for a second. The state of Team USA is like the state of the Avengers. Both lined up year by year, 2008. Think about what happened like 2008. We formed the Redeem Team. Our basketball program needed saving, so we brought the best we had available to accomplish what we needed to accomplish. 2008, Iron Man releases and hints that the world needs a team to save it. So they send their best, most iconic superheroes to save it. And for the next following Olympics, 2012, 2016, or in the FIBA tournaments in between, we send our best basketball players, Steph, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Kobe, Mel in the Olympics was crazy. And in the Avengers movies, they still had Iron Man for a couple films, Captain America, Prime Thor, Prime Hulk, the best of the best got sent over to save the day, win gold. But now Iron Man's dead. Captain America's dead. These guys are dead, or some of these guys are like Thor and Hulk are washed. These guys are washed. They're not the same like they used to be. And in the NBA, LeBron, Steph, they're not doing Olympics or FIBA anymore. Or some of the guys like Dwayne Wade are retired. Melo retired. And Kevin Durant not doing it anymore. So now we're left with sending Josh Hart, Bobby Portis, Cam Johnson, Austin Reeves. That's who we're sending over to win gold. While every other country, like Canada, sending SGA, Jamal Murray, they're sending their best players. We're sending our B squad. Like again, Anthony Edwards is pretty good. Brandon Ingram's pretty good. Jaren Jackson's pretty good. But how many of those players would you be confident saying are locks for top 20? Maybe in the locks for top 25 in the league. Only really a few. Maybe not. Just like in this current state of the Avengers. There's still Spider-Man. There's still Guardians. There's still Doctor Strange. But how many of those characters still left are S or A tier or Marvel characters? Feels like we're sending over a lot of our B team for Team USA. Seems like MCU films are now showing off the C tier characters. The MCU making films about like Miss Marvel is kind of like us. And MCU making films about Miss Marvel and Moon Knight is kind of like us sending over Josh Hart and Cam Johnson. We're no longer guaranteed gold. I still think USA is good enough to win gold. I still think we have the deepest roster compared to the other FIBA teams out there. And hopefully for the Olympics run around next Olympic cycle, we send a better roster. This is just FIBA, by the way. This isn't the actual Olympics, but FIBA still matters. We still send it like a couple FIBAs ago. We were sending over Kyrie, James Harden, Steph Curry. We were still sending some of our greatest players over in FIBA too. I still think we're confident in winning gold, but it's going to be a lot of a struggle because back in the day, like just not even like 5 years ago, we were blowing teams out consistently. I don't think we're going to blow a lot of teams out this year. We might catch a couple losses. Like Gilbert Arenas said the other day, he said that this Team USA roster isn't, I think he said some more explicit language, but basically saying this team is ass. He said the team was ass. And we have an elite coaching staff, which is kind of wild. Like we have like all the elite basketball minds. You think about your Mark Few, Steve Kerr's, Eric Spoelstra's. I mean, Coach K doesn't do it anymore. But a lot of the elite basketball minds are coaches, but they're left with a roster of like Cam Johnson, Walker Kessler. It's just funny. And what Gilbert Arenas said was, I don't think half of these guys actually start for their own team. We used to send over teams filled with superstars. Teams filled, like the entire top 15 of the NBA was over. I think when we used to send Team USA rosters for FIBA, like I think at least 80% of the roster was top 15 or top 20. Now our roster is only filled with like one or two guys who are locks for like actually have a legit argument to be top 20. Thinking of like Brandon Ingram, Anthony Edwards, Jaren Jackson. I think those are the only guys I would say, oh, they have an argument to be top 20. Brunson, Mikal Bridges, they have an argument to be top 30. Everyone else is not close. Josh Hart doesn't even start for his team. Some of these guys come off the bench, and they're playing for Team USA. But we're like the Avengers. Okay, let's switch to Angels. We're talking baseball to close out the show. We're flying through it today. Yo, if there's a sponsor out there who wants to throw me a commercial, it would fill up airtime when I'm taking these water breaks, man. Let me give you guys one of my biggest philosophies in sports. I said this the other show too. I said this like 2 shows ago when I was talking Angels baseball, but I want to bring it back up again because it just keeps hitting home. And I want to say I told you so. Sorry, a little sick too, by the way. If you haven't noticed, nose is a little plugged, stuffed up. I don't know. And some of my friends are sick. I don't know what's going on. Something's in the air. COVID. I don't know. One of my biggest beliefs in sports is that if your team has a capped ceiling, especially if that ceiling isn't even a conference final, and we've known your ceiling's capped for the last 2 to 3 years, but you have some valuable assets on your team, blow it up. Like, what are we doing here? Stop selling to your fan base that you can make a playoff push when in reality, you're steering the direction of mid. Like, the assets on your team can build a foundation for a promising future if you just look in the mirror, take a deep breath, and understand realistically where your team's at. The LA Angels are a prime example of this. They had the opportunity to trade Shohei Ohtani before the chance of him leaving for nothing this offseason, but instead they opted to keep him for a playoff push. I said this was delusional, and it's looking like I was right. Since the deadline, the Angels are 0-6, 1 game below 500, and 7 games out of the final wildcard spot. This Angels team, even after a deadline bye, does not have the makeup of a contender. And now they're extremely likely to miss the playoffs, which will cause Ohtani, the most valuable asset in the game, to walk for nothing, damaging the future for the franchise. I gave other examples like the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are a team that I think is going to completely give teams hope, give their franchise hope, that their fan base hope that they're going to be like a 6 to 8 seed when realistically they're like a 7 to 10 seed. They're battling for mid every year. They're not a contender. They're a fringe playoff team. They're most likely a play-in team, and they should blow it up. They have valuable assets, especially when Lonzo Ball is probably never going to play again, unfortunately. The era is over for that Chicago Bulls team. Zach LaVine, that's a valuable asset. DeMar DeRozan's a valuable asset. The problem is the issue with if you don't look in the mirror and understand that your ceiling is capped, it's going to bite you in the ass, but it'll be too late. Because when it comes back to bite you, it's going to be too late. Because by the end, either your assets that are valuable will leave you for nothing, like Shohei Ohtani, when they have the chance in like free agency when their contract's up, or your assets that you had that were once valuable no longer are valuable. They're aging, they're injury, they add a couple more injuries, or they just regress shooting as a player. Like, your assets can either regress or leave you. But while they have value, if they have value, but your ceiling is not a championship ceiling or at least a conference finals appearance ceiling, blow it up. And that's what the Angels should have done. And I came on this show the other day and said the Angels were completely delusional, pulling Shohei Ohtani off the market. Like, okay, Shohei Ohtani off the market stuff. Like, I'm not saying that they just had to take any package that was on the table. Like, if there was seriously no good package on the table, which I would find hard to believe, it's Shohei Ohtani, or a guy who's peaking as probably the highest. He's probably peaking as the best player ever. Honestly, what he's doing this year, 40 home runs, 3 ERA. He's peaking as probably the best player ever. Tell me there's no market. I get he's a rental to like majority of Major League Baseball, but tell me there's no market or not a good market. I'm not saying except like a bad trade. Because if you had to hold on to him, it's not like the end of the world. But just come out and say you're pulling him off the market for a playoff push when you know damn well you're not a good team. You're a mid team. You're a 500 club. Mike Trout's injury prone. Shohei Ohtani is just not enough to single-handedly bring you these wins. You had a cupcake schedule going the deadline, gave you false hope. Now you play a good Mariners team and you're getting cooked. And the Mariners are not even a playoff team right now. They're like, I think the Mariners are 500, but I think they're outside looking in. They're ahead of the Angels. The Angels had the opportunity to unload the biggest asset in baseball, change their ceiling to a promising one, build a stacked farm system. So in 2 or 3 years, they have guys under control, very good guys in control, because Shohei Ohtani's only going to give you good guys, very good guys in control. Then, you build around Trout again. Now Ohtani's going to leave for nothing because you delusionally thought. And a lot of people were like, oh, you just can't give up Ohtani. You just have to make him get to the playoffs. They weren't getting the playoffs. I said on the show, I got the argument that, if the Angels made the playoffs, if the Angels somehow got in the playoffs, Mike Trout's healthy, Shohei Ohtani's in the playoffs in October, anything can happen. Maybe you make a deep run. I said I kind of got the argument. My issue is they're far on the outside looking in. They're multiple games below 500, or they're multiple games back from a wild card spot. It'd be different if they were like the 5th seed, but they're like the 11th seed in the American League. They're on the outside looking in. It'd be different then. They had no chance to make the playoffs, in my opinion. And a Lucas Giolito bye is not enough to say it's not enough for you just to leap in the playoffs. Lucas Giolito is not even that good. But that's where the Angels are at. One of my biggest beliefs in sports is if your team has a cap ceiling, blow it the hell up. The Angels did not give up their valuable assets, and now their future is going to hurt when Ohtani leaves in the offseason to be a Dodger, and they missed the playoffs by like 7 games, and we're a 500 team. Man. Dude, people in my comments, bro, I saw on my TikTok and my YouTube, because I post on multiple platforms now, people are saying I know absolutely nothing about baseball. I'm the one who's delusional. They have to keep Ohtani. They just have to try to make the playoffs, try to get Ohtani into the postseason. Dude, they had no chance of making the playoffs. No chance. Again, it'd be different if they were like the 4th seed, 5th seed, and they were the inside. They were like 7 games on the outside looking in. They had no chance. I didn't see it coming, but we made it to the end. We made it to the end. These solo streams fly by. It's just me chatting for like less than an hour. I thank you guys all for tuning in to the 54th episode of Some Casual Takes. Everyone who's watching on Twitch, everyone who will be watching on YouTube when I post the podcast, everyone who's going to watch my clips on social medias, follow them, Some Casual Takes on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I post all my clips, highlights of the shows on there, and I post the full episodes on YouTube. Just check my link tree on any of my social medias. You'll find it. Next show, it's most likely Monday at 12:30. No Friday show because I'll be on vacation. I'm going to the 305. I'm going to Miami, Florida. I'm going to link up with my boy. We're going to have a good weekend, but that means no Friday show. So come back on Monday at 12:30. Turn on the notifications. I will be there. Let me see. Okay. I can't even read these Twitch comments, man. I'm out. You guys have a good rest of your week. I won't even see you on the weekend. So have a good weekend. Very in advance. Better wish me a great trip, by the way. Wish me a great trip. And I'll see you on Monday.